The dropship screamed through atmosphere with half its hull plating gone. Lieutenant Dean Carter gripped the pilot's seat as alarms shrieked around him. The Vrix mothership loomed ahead, a bone-white monolith 3 miles long, bristling with weapon ports that had already shredded his entire squadron. "Command, this is Sierra 7. I'm going in alone," Dean transmitted, knowing no response would come. Earth was 19 light-years behind him. The relay stations were slag. He was the last. The Vrix had given humanity one demand: surrender or extinction. 48 hours to decide. That was 16 hours ago, and Dean had watched them glass the colony on Meridian 4 just to prove their seriousness. 3 million people turned to ash in seconds. His ship shuddered as it punched through the mothership's energy barrier. The impact ripped away the landing gear. Dean didn't care. He wasn't planning to leave. The dropship crashed through a hangar entrance, skidding across alien metal in a spray of sparks. Dean was already moving before it stopped, magnetic boots hitting the deck, pulse rifle up. The hangar was massive, empty. Wrong. This felt wrong. Vrix warriors materialized from alcoves, their chitinous armor gleaming under violet light, 6-limbed nightmares with mandibles that could shear through combat steel. Dean opened fire, his rifle spitting tungsten rounds at hypersonic velocity. The first warrior's head exploded in blue ichor. He ran, not away, never away, toward the central spire his tactical display showed, where she would be, their queen. More warriors flooded the corridor. Dean triggered the breaching charges on his belt, blowing a hole through the wall into a parallel passage. He dove through as plasma fire scorched the air where he'd stood. His armor's right pauldron melted. The pain was white-hot but distant. He'd injected enough combat stims to kill a normal person. 2 more warriors ahead. Dean slid under their plasma bursts, firing upward. Both dropped. He kept running, his tactical display counting down. 47 seconds until his ship's reactor went critical. That would crack this section of the mothership open, like an egg. But it wouldn't kill her. She'd be deep, protected, probably immortal by human standards. Dean hit the central lift shaft and fired his grapple gun straight up. The line went taut and yanked him upward at gut-wrenching speed. Below, the warrior's plasma fire chased him, melting through the shaft walls. 20 seconds. The lift opened onto a chamber that defied geometry, all wrong angles and pulsing organic technology fused with mechanical systems. And there, on a throne of living metal, sat the Vrix Queen, 12 feet tall, crowned with sensory horns, her 4 eyes fixed on him with something that might have been amusement. One human. Her voice resonated directly in his skull. "You think this changes anything?" Dean smiled and armed the device on his chest. "Yeah," he said. "I really do." The device on Dean's chest pulsed with blue light, but the Vrix Queen didn't flinch. She rose from her throne, and the chamber seemed to contract around her presence. Warriors poured in from every entrance, weapons trained on him, but she raised one-bladed limb and they froze. "Your reactor detonates in 12 seconds, she said, her mental voice calm. "You die. I survive. Your species still faces extinction. Explain your purpose." Dean kept the rifle aimed at her head. "This isn't a bomb. It's a transmitter." Her sensory horns twitched. "Transmitting what?" "Everything in your mind," Dean said. "Every tactical plan, every fleet position, every weakness in your species' biology. The moment you killed Meridian 4, our scientists knew we couldn't win with guns, so we built something better. A neural scanner that works on your frequency. I just had to get close enough." The Queen's mandibles spread in what might have been a laugh. "Impossible. Our neural architecture is encrypted across quantum dimensions. Your primitive technology cannot." The device chirped. Green light. Her 4 eyes widened. "Got everything," Dean said. His heads-up display showed the data streaming out in compressed bursts, bouncing off his ship's relay before it vaporized, scattering across dead-drop satellites he'd seeded on approach. "Your fleet deployments, the location of every Vrix world, the chemical composition of your atmospheric requirements, the frequency that disrupts your hive coordination. Want me to keep going?" The queen moved faster than anything that size should. Her bladed limbs struck like a piston, but Dean was already dropping, firing his grapple gun at the chamber's organic ceiling. It yanked him up as her strike shattered the floor where he'd stood. He swung in an arc, firing his rifle one-handed. The round sparked off her armor but made her recoil. Good. She could be hurt. "Kill him!" she commanded, and the chamber erupted. Plasma fire converged from 20 directions. Dean cut the grapple line and dropped, tucking into a roll as the ceiling above him turned to molten slag. He came up running, weaving between warrior legs, firing at joints and sensor clusters. 2 went down, 3 more took their place. His armor's left arm locked up. The servos fused from a plasma near miss. Dean switched the rifle to his right hand and kept moving. The chamber had multiple exits. He just needed one. A warrior blocked his path, mandibles spreading. Dean didn't slow, just lowered his shoulder and triggered his armor's kinetic booster. He hit the warrior like a missile, the impact shattering chitin and throwing them both through a membrane door into another corridor. Dean scrambled up, leaving the warrior twitching. His HUD showed 14 more contacts converging. The reactor detonation was 7 seconds away. He sprinted down the corridor as the mothership's gravity began to fluctuate. The reactor was going. Good. He needed the chaos. A maintenance shaft appeared on his left. Dean dove into it as plasma fire chased him. The shaft was narrow, barely wide enough for his armor. He crawled fast, ignoring the screaming in his muscles. The explosion hit. The entire mothership shuddered. Gravity cut out completely. Dean grabbed a conduit to stop himself from floating as atmosphere shrieked past him, venting into space. Emergency bulkheads started slamming down throughout the ship. His HUD showed a docking bay 2 levels down. Long-range scouts would be there. Small craft. Fast. Dean kicked through a wall grate and dropped into the chaos below. Vrix warriors floated in confusion, their coordination broken. The Queen's voice wasn't in their heads anymore. The hive link was disrupted, just like the stolen data had predicted. He fired at a control panel, and a scout ship's bay door opened. Dean mag-locked his boots and ran across the deck, warriors scrambling to orient themselves in zero gravity. One managed to aim. Plasma caught Dean's leg, burning through armor and flesh. He felt the bone crack, but didn't stop. 3 more steps. 2. 1. Dean threw himself into the scout ship and slammed the manual release. The craft shot out of the bay like a bullet, spinning wildly. He grabbed the controls, fighting the momentum, his burned legs screaming. Behind him, the mothership's entire central section was coming apart. Secondary explosions rippling through its structure. But it wasn't dying. Ships that size didn't die easy. Dean punched the coordinates for the rally point and engaged the jump drive. As space twisted around him, his comm crackled to life. "This is Carrier Valiant to unknown human craft. Identify yourself." Dean's breath caught. The fleet. They'd come. "Sierra 7, Lieutenant Dean Carter," he transmitted. "I'm uploading tactical data on the Vrix now. Everything you need to win this war." There was a pause. Then, "Received, Lieutenant. Jump to these coordinates. The Admiral wants to meet the man who just changed everything." Dean set the course and let himself slump in the seat. His leg was ruined, his armor was slag, and every muscle felt like it was tearing apart. But he was smiling. Humanity wasn't done yet. The medical bay on the Valiant smelled like antiseptic and recycled air. Dean woke to the sensation of nanosutures knitting his leg back together, each pulse a sharp reminder that he was still alive. A doctor with tired eyes and steady hands worked over him. "Stay still," she said. "Another 10 minutes and you'll walk again. Maybe even run if you're stupid enough." Dean tried to sit up. Pain lanced through him. The data. Did it saved humanity, yeah? The doctor pushed him back down. "Every ship in the fleet has it. We've already hit 3 Vrix supply lines. They're scrambling. Now lie down before I sedate you." The bay doors hissed open. Admiral Frank Kozlov strode in, his uniform crisp despite the battle fatigue in his eyes. Behind him came a woman in Science Corps whites, carrying a data tablet like it held the secrets of the universe. "Maybe it did, Lieutenant Carter," Kozlov said. "You just gave us the biggest intelligence coup in human history. How'd you know it would work?" Dean met his gaze. I didn't. It was theory. Doctor, Shaw's work on neural mapping, combined with what we learned from the Vrix communication intercepts, we had one shot to test it. The woman stepped forward. Doctor, Lisa Grant, Xenobiology Division. Your scan captured more than tactics, Lieutenant. We found their homeworld's location. Population centers, breeding cycles, atmospheric composition down to the molecule. Her voice dropped. Kozlov's expression hardened. Show him. Dr. Grant activated her tablet. A hologram materialized above Dean's bed, showing a Vrix warrior's internal structure. She highlighted a cluster near what passed for their brain. This is their neural nexus. It coordinates with the Queen's hive signal. Without it, they're just dangerous animals. With it, they're a synchronized killing force. She zoomed in, but the signal operates on a specific frequency, one we can disrupt. Dean understood immediately. A weapon. Not just a weapon, Kozlov said. A planet killer. We broadcast the disruption frequency at high enough amplitude. Every Vrix on a world goes brain dead simultaneously. No invasion needed. No ground war. Just broadcast and wait. The medical bay suddenly felt colder. Dean looked between them. That's genocide. That's survival, Kozlov said flatly. They gave us 48 hours to surrender or die. They glassed Meridian I-4 as a demonstration. They're not interested in peace, Carter. They want extermination or subjugation. Those are the only options they've given us. Doctor, Grant's hands tightened on her tablet. There's more. The data shows they've done this before. 17 other species across the galaxy. All extinct now. The Vrix don't negotiate. They don't coexist. They consume. Dean's leg throbbed as the nanosutures finished. He sat up slowly, ignoring the doctor's protest. How long until the weapon's ready? Prototype's operational in 6 hours, Kozlov said. We're calling it the Silence. But we need a delivery method. The Queen will have moved her fleet by now. She knows we have her data. She'll be fortifying her position, probably calling in reinforcements from other conquered systems. So, we bring the fight to her, Dean said. Kozlov nodded. The homeworld. We hit them where they live, jump the entire fleet into their system, broadcast the Silence on every frequency, and end this war before they can adapt. Dean stood, testing his leg. It held. When do we leave? 2 hours, Kozlov said. Every ship we have, every Marine, every pilot. This is it, Carter. Humanity's last roll of the dice. He paused. I want you on the bridge. You earned the right to see this through. The doctor tried to object, but Dean was already moving toward the door. His armor was gone, replaced with a standard combat uniform that felt too light, too exposed. But his rifle was there, cleaned and reloaded, leaning against the wall. He picked it up and followed the Admiral into the corridor. The Valiant was organized chaos. Crew rushed past, carrying ammunition, medical supplies, and equipment whose purpose Dean couldn't guess. Through viewports he saw the fleet assembling. Dozens of warships, frigates, destroyers, and carriers. Everything humanity had left after the initial Vrix assault. They reached the bridge. It sprawled across 2 levels, dominated by tactical displays showing the Vrix homeworld system, gas giants, asteroid fields, and at the center, a blue-green planet wrapped in orbital defense platforms. They'll see us coming, the tactical officer said. No way to mask a fleet this size. Good, Kosov said, settling into the command chair. I want them to see. I want the Queen to know exactly what's coming for her. Dean moved to a console near the viewport. Below, fighter craft launched in perfect formation, their engines blazing. Each one carried a pilot who knew the odds, who knew this might be humanity's final battle. But they launched anyway. Dr. Grant appeared beside him. Are we monsters for this? She asked quietly. Dean thought about Meridian. 4. About 3 million people who never got a choice. About the 17 extinct species the Vrix had erased from existence. No, he said. We're survivors, the jump klaxon sounded. Every ship in the fleet activated their drives simultaneously. Space twisted, and they vanished into the void. When they emerged, the Vrix homeworld filled the viewport, and 1,000 alien warships turned to face them. All ships, Kozlov's voice rang out across every channel. This is for Earth. This is for every world they've burned. Engage. The fleet surged forward, and the final battle began. The first wave of Vrick's plasma fire turned space into a light show of death. The destroyer Achilles took a direct hit, its shields flaring white before collapsing. The ship broke apart in silence, scattering debris and bodies into the void. Dean gripped the console as the Valiant shuddered under incoming fire. The tactical display showed the math of extinction. Humanity had 63 warships. The Vricks had over 900 defending their homeworld with more jumping in every minute. Carriers, launch all fighters, Kozlov ordered. Frigates, screen formation. We need to get the Silence close enough to broadcast. The weapon itself sat in a modified cargo hauler at the fleet's center, protected by overlapping shields from 6 destroyers. It looked fragile. Humanity's entire future depended on a device the size of a transit bus. Incoming jump signatures, the sensor officer called out. Vrix reinforcements, 200 contacts, bearing... I see them, Kozlov cut in. All ships, Delta 7 formation. Draw their fire away from the hauler. The fleet split apart like a flower opening, each group of ships peeling off to engage different sections of the Vrix defense. The Valiant led its battle group straight into the teeth of an orbital platform, point defense cannons hammering away at incoming missiles. Dean watched a frigate die, then another. The tactical display was bleeding red. Distance to broadcast range? Kozlov demanded. 80,000 kilometers, Doctor, Grant said from her station. We need to be within 50,000 for guaranteed planetary coverage. A Vrix dreadnought emerged from behind the planet's moon, twice the size of any human ship. Its main weapon charged with visible energy, a buildup that made Dean's stomach drop. Evasive! Someone shouted, but the beam lanced out before the Valiant could turn. It missed by meters, vaporizing a destroyer that had moved to intercept. Return fire all batteries, Kozlov said. The Valiant's railguns spoke, sending tungsten slugs downrange at a fraction of light speed. They impacted the dreadnought's shields in brilliant flashes. The shields held. Dean's console lit up with a priority message. He opened it and felt his blood freeze. Admiral, we have a problem. The Queen's flagship just jumped into the system. She's positioning between us and the planet. On the main display, the mothership appeared. Even damaged from Dean's assault, it dwarfed everything else in space. Weapon ports that could glass continents cycled online, targeting solutions already calculating. She's blocking the broadcast vector, Dr. Grant said. If we fire the Silence now, her ship's mass will absorb most of the signal. We need a clear path to the planet. Kozlov's jaw tightened. Recommendations? We punch through, Dean said. Everyone turned to look at him. Every ship we have, straight at the mothership. Overwhelm her point defense. Get the hauler past her, then broadcast. It's the only way. That's suicide, the tactical officer said. It's war, Dean replied. Kozlov studied the display for 3 seconds that felt like hours. Then he nodded. All ships, form up on the Valiant. We're going through. Maximum burn. All weapons free. Whatever it takes, that hauler gets through. The acknowledgements came in one after another. Every captain knew what Kozlov was ordering. A frontal assault on the most powerful warship in the sector. The fleet reformed into a spearhead, the Valiant at its tip. Behind them, the hauler accelerated, its engines pushed beyond safe limits. All power to forward shields, Kozlov said. And somebody get me a firing solution on that ship's bridge. If we're doing this, I want to make it count. The mothership opened fire first. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids tracked across space, finding targets. A carrier exploded. Then, 2 frigates. The destroyer Olympus lost its entire port side but kept firing, kept flying, its crew refusing to die quietly. The Valiant shook as plasma washed over its shields. The forward screen dropped to 40%, then 20%. Alarms screamed. Hold formation, Kozlov commanded. Dean watched the distance counter fall. 60,000 kilometers. 55. The mothership's weapons were shredding the fleet. They'd lost 18 ships in as many seconds. A Vrix fighter wing dove at the hauler. Human interceptors met them head-on, the dogfight turning into a knife fight that left both sides bleeding, but the hauler kept moving. 50,000 kilometers, broadcast range achieved, Dr. Grant announced. Not yet, Kozlov said. We're still blocked. Another 10,000. The Valiant shields failed. Raw plasma scored the hull, melting through armor plating. Explosive decompression killed everyone on Deck 7. The ship lurched as a secondary explosion tore through the engine room. We're losing thrust, engineering reported. Compensating, but we're slowing down. They weren't going to make it. The hauler was pulling ahead, but without the fleet's covering fire, it would be destroyed before it could clear the mothership. Unless someone gave it an opening, Dean grabbed his rifle and ran for the hangar bay. "Carter, what are you doing?" Dr. Grant shouted after him. There wasn't time. The hangar was chaos. Damaged fighters limped back for repairs while launch crews prepped anything that could still fly. Dean spotted a single-seat interceptor, its pilot climbing out with a bleeding head wound. "I need your bird," Dean said. The pilot looked at him like he was insane. "You're not a pilot. I'm humanity's best chance. Get out." Something in Dean's voice made the pilot move. Dean climbed into the cockpit, his injured legs screaming in protest. The controls were intuitive enough. Stick, throttle, weapons trigger. How hard could it be? He launched before anyone could stop him, the interceptor shooting into space like a bullet. The mothership loomed ahead, filling his canopy. Dean armed every missile his bird carried, locked onto the same target, and fired. Then he punched his engines to maximum and flew straight at the point where the missiles would impact. "Carter, abort." Kozlov's voice crackled over the comm. "You're flying into your own blast radius." Dean ignored him. He watched the missiles streak ahead, watched them converge on a single point on the mothership's hull, right where his scan data said the Queen's chamber would be. The missiles hit. The explosion tore a wound in the mothership's side. Atmosphere vented in a crystalline cloud. And for just a moment, the weapon ports on that entire section went dark as power rerouted to emergency systems. The hauler shot through the gap, broadcasting now. Dr. Grant's voice came through, tight with tension. The silence activated. Dean couldn't hear it, couldn't see it, but every Vrix warrior in range suddenly stopped moving. Ships drifted. Fighters tumbled. The mothership's weapons fell silent. The signal reached the planet below, and 6 billion Vrix minds went dark forever. Dean's interceptor spun wildly through debris, alarms screaming as the blast wave from his own missiles caught up. He fought the controls, but the stick was dead. Systems failed. One by one. Hull integrity at 12%. Life support failing. Engines gone. Through the canopy, he watched the mothership. It drifted now, powerless. No return fire. No movement. Just a massive tomb floating in the silence. His interceptor tumbled toward the Vrix homeworld's gravity well. Dean tried the comm, but it was static. Tried the thrusters, nothing. He was falling and there was nothing he could do about it. Atmospheric entry lit up his damaged heat shields. The cockpit temperature spiked. Dean pulled his knees to his chest and waited for the end. It didn't come. A cargo hauler matched his trajectory, its bay doors open. Magnetic grapples shot out and locked onto his interceptor. Dean felt the sudden deceleration as the hauler's engines burned hard, fighting gravity. "Got you, Lieutenant," a voice said over a crackling connection. "Sit tight." They pulled him up through fire and chaos, back into the black. Dean's vision blurred, oxygen deprivation making everything soft and distant. But through the canopy, he saw the fleet. What remained of it? 26 ships out of 63. Burning wrecks littered the orbital space. Thousands dead. But the Vrix fleet was worse. Every ship hung dead in space, their crews brain dead from the silence. A graveyard of epic proportions. The hauler docked with the Valiant, and medical teams dragged Dean from the cockpit. He tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. They put him on a stretcher, and he didn't fight it. The medbay again, the same doctor looking even more exhausted. "You really are stupid enough to run," she said, checking his vitals. "Radiation exposure, oxygen deprivation, 3 cracked ribs I somehow missed before. You should be dead." "How long was I out?" Dean managed. 4 hours. The Admiral's been waiting. She glanced toward the door. Against my medical advice, I'm letting him in. 5 minutes. Then you rest. Kozlov entered alone this time. He looked older than he had that morning. Older than any man should look. We won, he said simply. The silence worked. Every Vrix in the system is gone. Their homeworld is silent. Their fleets are derelict. We're sending boarding parties to secure their technology, their data cores, everything. Dean processed that. And the other Vrix worlds, the ones in the data? Strike groups are jumping to each one. We are broadcasting the silence across 17 systems simultaneously. By tomorrow, the Vrix will be extinct. Kozlov sat heavily in a chair. 18 species they wiped out. Now we've done the same to them. They didn't give us a choice, Dean said. No, Kozlov agreed. They didn't. But that doesn't make it feel any cleaner. He rubbed his face. Command wants you back on Earth. Full debrief, medals, probably a parade. The man who saved humanity. Dean closed his eyes. I didn't save humanity. I just stole data and flew a ship badly. You gave us hope when we had none. You proved one person could make a difference. Kozlov stood. The war's over, Carter. We won. But now comes the hard part. What's that? Living with what we did to win it. Kozlov left. Dean lay there, staring at the ceiling, hearing the screams of dying ships in his memory, seeing the mothership go dark, knowing that billions of living beings had just ceased to exist because of what he'd started. The doctor returned with sedatives. Dean didn't refuse them. He dreamed of the Queen, her 4 eyes fixed on him, asking the same question over and over. What have you done? When he woke, the Valiant was jumping back to Earth. The trip took 3 days. Dean spent most of it in physical therapy, learning to walk properly again on his rebuilt leg. The ship felt empty. Too many bunks that would never be filled again. Dr. Grant found him in the observation deck on the 2nd day, watching stars streak past. I've been analyzing the Vrix data, she said. Their history, their culture, everything we captured. Do you want to know what I found? Dean wasn't sure he did, but he nodded. They were terrified, she said. Every entry in their historical records shows the same pattern. Expand or die. Consume or be consumed. They encountered a species once, early in their development, that nearly wiped them out. It shaped everything they became. Every conquest, every genocide, all of it stemmed from fear. That doesn't excuse what they did, Dean said. No, Dr. Grant agreed. But it explains it. They were victims once too. Then they became victimizers because they couldn't imagine any other way to survive. She looked at him. What does that make us? Dean had no answer. Earth appeared on the 3rd day, blue and green and impossibly fragile from orbit. The planet they'd saved, the home they'd killed for. Defense platforms challenged them. Then recognized the Valiant's transponder and sent congratulations. News of the victory had traveled faster than the fleet. Earth knew. The colonies knew. Humanity knew it had survived. The Valiant docked at Gateway Station. Kozlov assembled the crew in the main hangar. You are the finest warriors humanity has ever produced, he said. You faced extinction and you didn't blink. You lost friends, brothers, sisters. You watched them die so that billions could live. History will remember you. Earth will remember you, and I will remember you. He saluted, dismissed. The crew dispersed. Dean found himself alone on the observation deck again as shuttles began ferrying personnel down to Earth. He should go. Command was waiting. His family probably thought he was dead, but he stood there, watching the planet turn, thinking about queens and warriors and the price of survival. Lieutenant Carter? A young ensign appeared. Your shuttle's ready. They're waiting for you on the surface. Dean took one last look at the stars. Out there, 17 Vrix worlds sat silent. Monuments to extinction, to fear, to the terrible math of survival. He turned and followed the ensign to the shuttle bay. Whatever came next, he'd face it the same way he'd faced the Queen. One step at a time, into the unknown. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific. Dean watched the clouds part, revealing continents he'd wondered if he'd ever see again. Cities glittered in the evening light. Millions of lives, continuing because of what the fleet had done. The shuttle landed at Peterson Military Complex in Colorado. The doors opened to camera flashes and a crowd Dean hadn't expected. Civilians pressed against barriers, waving flags, holding signs. Some were crying, others cheered. Dean limped down the ramp, his rebuilt legs stiff in the cold air. A woman broke through security and grabbed him in a hug before anyone could stop her. "Thank you," she sobbed. "My daughter's alive because of you. Thank you." Security pulled her back gently, but Dean saw dozens more faces with the same desperate gratitude. These weren't soldiers. They were teachers, engineers, parents. People who'd stared at the countdown to extinction and been given their lives back. General Patricia Monroe waited beyond the crowd, her uniform perfect, her expression unreadable. She'd commanded Earth's defense during the initial Vrex assault. She'd been the one who authorized Dean's suicide mission. "Walk with me, Lieutenant," she said. They moved into the complex, away from cameras and crowds. Monroe led him to an observation room overlooking a hangar where scientists swarmed over captured Vriex technology. "We've learned more in 3 days than in 3 years of war," Monroe said. "Their propulsion systems are decades ahead of ours. Their medical technology could cure diseases we've struggled with for generations. Their data cores contain star charts to regions we never knew existed." She paused. "We took everything from them, and we're building our future on top of their grave." Dean watched the scientists work. "You didn't bring me here for a guilt trip, General." "No," Monroe agreed. "I brought you here because Command wants to expand. Use what we've learned to push into Vrix territory, claim their worlds, establish humanity as the dominant power in this region of space. They want you to lead the expedition, the hero of Earth, planting our flag on conquered worlds." Dean turned to face her. "And what do you want?" Monroe's expression softened slightly. "I want to know if we're becoming what we destroyed. If survival requires us to be monsters, what does that make us when the threat is gone?" "I don't know," Dean said honestly, "but I know I'm not leading any expansion. I didn't fight so we could become conquerors." "That's what I told them you'd say." Monroe handed him a data pad. "This is your discharge. Full honors, pension, whatever you want. You've earned the right to walk away." Dean took the pad but didn't look at it. "What will you tell Command? That humanity needs to be better than its enemies. That we need to find a way to survive without becoming what we feared." She smiled grimly. "They won't listen, but I'll say it anyway." They stood in silence, watching the scientists dissect alien technology. Finally, Dean spoke. "The Queen asked me what I thought I'd changed. I told her everything." He looked at Monroe. "I was wrong. The war ended, but we're still the same. Still afraid. Still looking for threats. Maybe," Monroe said. "Or maybe we're just human. Flawed, frightened, but still trying. That has to count for something. No escort. No ceremony." He took a commercial flight to Phoenix, where his sister lived. She met him at the airport, older than he remembered, her eyes red from crying. They didn't talk much on the drive. What was there to say? He'd left to fight aliens and returned having killed billions. The math didn't get simpler with distance. Her house was small, comfortable. Nephew was asleep, too young to understand what had happened in space. Dean stood in the doorway of the child's room, watching him breathe. This was what he'd fought for. Not glory or conquest. Just this, a child sleeping safely, dreaming whatever children dream. "Will you stay?" his sister asked from behind him. Dean thought about the Valiant, about the crews dying in silence, about the Queen's final moment of understanding, about 17 worlds that would never know another dawn. "For a while," he said. That night he dreamed differently. Not of battles or queens or dying ships. He dreamed of the Vrix before their fear consumed them, before they became monsters. He dreamed of what they might have been if they'd chosen differently. When he woke, the sun was rising over Earth. Somewhere above, the fleet was salvaging Vrix technology. Somewhere, in government halls, officials were planning expansion. The cycle continuing, fear driving ambition driving fear. But here, in this small house, his nephew was laughing at breakfast. His sister was smiling. Life was continuing in the simple, precious way it always had. Dean's communicator buzzed. A message from Dr. Grant. Found something in the Vrix data. Evidence of other species. Alive. Hiding. They survived the Vrix by refusing to become like them. Thought you'd want to know. There's another way. Dean read it twice, then looked out the window at the brightening sky. Maybe humanity would learn. Maybe they'd choose fear and conquest like the Vrix. Maybe the cycle would continue until something stronger came along. Or maybe, just maybe, one person could still make a difference. Not through violence or sacrifice, but through choosing to be better. He'd faced an alien queen and her army. He'd changed the course of the war. But the real battle was just beginning. The battle to ensure humanity's survival didn't cost its soul. Dean Carter poured himself coffee and sat down with his family. One step at a time, into a